The unexpected signing of this paper against you may seem like a blow, but trust that God's divine plan is at work. This change is guiding you to a path where you will find new purpose and fulfillment. As the decision is formalized and you face an imminent departure, know that God's message is one of hope. This transition is a divine realignment leading you to a place of greater peace and opportunity. The signature against you may seem sudden, but remember, it's part of God's greater plan. Embrace this change as a stepping stone to new possibilities, where divine guidance will lead you to success. In the face of this unexpected decision, trust that God is guiding you through this transition. What seems like a setback is actually a redirection toward a more fulfilling and purposeful path. As the paper is signed and your departure approaches, remember that God's message is one of transformation. This change, though unexpected, is a divine setup for a brighter, more aligned future. The signing against you may feel like an abrupt change, but God's plan is always at work. This transition is not a punishment, but a divine recalibration leading you to where you are meant to be. Even as someone's signature sets you on a new course, trust that this is part of a divine strategy. God's message is that this shift is guiding you to opportunities you haven't yet imagined. As you face the consequences of a decision against you, know that God's hand is guiding this change. What seems like an end is actually the start of a journey filled with divine purpose and promise. The paper may be signed, and your departure may seem imminent. But God's message is clear. This transition is a divine redirection towards a future where your true potential will shine. In the face of unexpected decisions, remember that God's guidance is ever present. This change, though sudden, is part of a greater plan that will lead you to a place of fulfillment and joy. As the ink dries on the decision against you, trust that this is a necessary step in God's plan. What feels like an end is actually a new beginning, filled with opportunities and divine guidance. The sudden shift caused by someone's signature may seem daunting, but God's message is one of reassurance. This change is steering you towards a future where His plans for you will come to fruition. Even as you face an unexpected departure, remember that God's message is one of hope. This transition is part of a divine strategy leading you to a path where you will find greater joy and purpose. As the decision against you is finalized, know that God's plan is at work. This sudden change is a divine recalibration, guiding you towards new opportunities and a brighter future. The paper may be signed and your departure may seem inevitable, but trust that God's message is one of transformation. This change is setting the stage for a future filled with divine possibilities. In the face of this unexpected decision, remember that God's guidance is unwavering. This transition, though abrupt, is leading you to a place of greater fulfillment and purpose. As the ink settles on the decision against you, know that this is part of a divine plan. What seems like an end is actually the beginning of a new journey crafted with God's love and wisdom. The signature against you may feel like a sudden upheaval, but God's message is one of hope. This change is a necessary step towards a future where His plans for you will be realized. Even as you face the consequences of someone's signature, trust that God's plan is unfolding. This transition is guiding you to a path where new opportunities and divine blessings await. As the paper is signed and you prepare for an unexpected change, remember that God's message is one of reassurance. This departure is a prelude to a brighter, more aligned future. The signing against you may seem like a harsh blow, but God's message is that it's a divine realignment. Embrace this transition as a step toward new opportunities and greater fulfillment. In the midst of this sudden decision, remember that God's guidance is at work. This change, though unexpected, is leading you to a place where you will find greater peace and purpose. As the ink dries on the decision against you, know that God's plan is always in motion. This transition is part of a greater strategy, guiding you to a future filled with promise and fulfillment. The signing of this paper against you may feel like a sudden setback, but God's message is one of reassurance. This change is leading you to a path where you will find new opportunities and blessings. When faced with an unexpected decision like this, trust that God's plan is at work. What seems like an end is actually a new beginning, opening doors to a future crafted with divine purpose. In the shadows of deceit, a man is penning his signature against you. The ink may soon dry on a decision that will change your course. Trust that God's plans are greater, and every ending paves the way for a new beginning. As the paper is signed and the ink settles, understand that this decision, though sudden, is not the end of your story. It is a chapter closed to make way for a divine new path. Trust in God's timing and purpose. The signature on that paper may feel like a betrayal, but remember, it's only the end of a chapter, not the end of your journey. God's message is clear. New opportunities are emerging, and brighter days are ahead. In the face of unexpected decisions, such as the one being signed against you, remember that God's plan is always in motion. What feels like a setback is merely preparation for a greater blessing. As the paper is signed and your departure looms, have faith that God's divine intervention is at work. What seems like a forced exit is actually a divine redirection towards something greater. The signing of that paper might seem like a harsh turn of fate, but God's message is one of reassurance. This transition is part of a grander design, guiding you to a place of greater fulfillment and purpose. Even as a man's signature solidifies a decision against you, trust that this unexpected shift is leading you closer to God's intended path. Embrace the change with faith and optimism. The act of signing a paper against you might seem like a sudden storm, but remember, every storm passes. God's message is that this storm will clear the way for a brighter, more purposeful future. When faced with the abrupt decision of someone signing against you, remember that God is in control. This transition, though unexpected, is a step toward a destiny that aligns with His divine plan. As the paper is signed and you find yourself facing an unforeseen departure, know that God's hand is guiding you. Trust in the process and believe that this is a prelude to a greater opportunity. The signing of this paper against you may appear as a setback, but in God's eyes, it's a mere realignment. Prepare yourself for the journey ahead as He paves the way for new beginnings. In the midst of this sudden decision against you, God's message is clear. Your departure is not a defeat, but a divine redirection. Embrace this change with faith as it leads you to something far greater. The paper is signed, and the time of your leaving is drawing near. But remember, every ending orchestrated by God leads to a new chapter filled with hope, purpose, and divine guidance. Though it may seem like an abrupt end, the signature against you is simply a transition to a new journey. God's plan is unfolding, and it's guiding you to a place where you're meant to thrive. The unexpected signature against you may feel like a door closing, but in reality, it's God opening a new door to opportunities you haven't yet imagined. Trust in His plan and embrace the change. As the ink dries on the paper against you, understand that God's message is one of hope. This is not the end, but a transition to a new beginning, crafted by divine wisdom and timing. In the face of this sudden decision, know that God's message is one of assurance. This unexpected change is part of His divine plan, leading you to a future filled with promise and fulfillment. The signature against you may seem like a harsh turn, but trust that God's guidance is at work. This departure is setting the stage for a new chapter where you will find greater peace and purpose. As the paper is signed and you prepare for an unexpected change, remember that God's plan is unfolding. What feels like an end is actually the beginning of a journey filled with divine purpose. Even as someone's signature puts you on a new path, trust that God's message is one of hope and renewal. This transition is a divine realignment leading you to a future where you will flourish. The signing of this paper might feel like a sudden disruption, but God's message is that it's a necessary shift. Embrace the transition, knowing it's a step towards something profoundly better. When faced with the unexpected signing against you, remember that God's plan is always in motion. This change, though sudden, is steering you towards a future crafted with love and purpose. As the ink settles on the decision against you, trust that this is a divine recalibration. What seems like an end is merely a pivot to a path where God's blessings and guidance await. The sudden shift caused by someone's signature may feel unsettling, but God's message is one of assurance. This departure is a prelude to new beginnings, where His plans for you will unfold beautifully. Even as the paper is signed against you, remember that this is part of a greater plan. God's message is that every end leads to a new beginning, filled with opportunities for growth and joy.